for the success of all. And hence why I am using this as my title, Passing the Baton. The purpose of this presentation is to explore the significance of mentorship, the characteristics of effective mentors, and strategies for inspiring the next generation. I put out a table of content because I believe I'm going to be sharing this presentation later, and I hope that people can go through it. I'm going to try and breeze through. Elder said I have 25 minutes. I've used up about 6 minutes, so I have 19 minutes. And I'll try and make the most in 19 minutes. So what does passing the baton mean? There's a notable metaphor for passing the baton as a symbol of the transfer of knowledge, wisdom, and inspiration, right? And that is reflective in the relay race, in the relay track and field race. In a relay race, team members take turns running a portion of the race while carrying the baton. The successful exchange of the baton from one runner to the next is crucial for the team's overall performance and victory. I explained that earlier. And I was reading this Bible text, Matthew 28, 19 and 20, where it says, we're each called not only to be disciples of Christ, but to make disciples. And we're going to delve deeper into how this text makes sense. Because on the one hand, we're called, but then we have to pass on the baton by bringing others to Christ. And not just bringing them to Christ, but we have to play an active role in their development. And so I started asking questions. If we're going to start igniting progress through generational transfer, what does that look like? Like passing the baton in a relay race, the act of passing on knowledge and wisdom is crucial for personal, professional, and societal growth. The wisdom of the older generation becomes a guiding light, helping shape the aspirations of the younger generation. In a world of rapid change, passing the baton preserves the valuable traditions while igniting the flames of innovation. And a Bible text that I picked out was Proverbs 19:20. I'm going to try and read that real quick. And it says, listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end, you will be counted among the wise. So on the one hand, I am speaking to the younger generation, yeah? Listen to advice. But it also goes for the older generation, because the older generation were also a younger generation at some point. And they would have sought advice before they can even pass on advice to the younger generation. Now, when it comes to nurturing growth through mentorship, just as a skilled relay runner ensures a smooth baton exchange, effective mentors need to possess qualities of empathy, patience, adaptability, and a passion for sharing knowledge. Now, I decided to pick this up because before we can even talk about trying to mentor the young generation, as an older generation, there are certain qualities that you need to have trained or learned or have, because the younger generation that you're speaking to, the generation of this time, which I'm going to define much further down the line, are peculiar to subsequent generations, and knowing how to communicate with them is very important. But some of the key characteristics or assets that you should have as a Elder, is there a way we can mute this sound? It's really is some of the key qualities are empathy, patience, adaptability, and a passion for sharing knowledge. And so I try to single out empathy. Why empathy? Well, let's look at it, for instance, right? Empathy is all about understanding or trying to be able to put yourself in someone's shoes and understand their predicament or their situation. And for the most part, a lot of the younger generation don't feel like they are understood. And to a large extent, there's also a lack of patience to want to understand them, because for the most part, you know, people will feel like, well, this is how I was brought up, and this is how we do things. And if you don't understand it as a younger person, then you're the one who's not well trained, or you're not well, you're not well tutored or brought up. But I think that mindset is more destructive, and it's more discouraging than encouraging. There needs to be an element of empathy and patience from a mentor's point of view to be able to try and understand the mentee that they're trying to speak to the younger generation. And this image kind of defines it all, because in this image, it is two heads trying to go into each other and understand each other. An inspiring mentor is like a steady hand passing the baton, guiding their mentees through the race of life. There was a book that I was reading from Kevin Hall, and in his book, the book's called Aspire, he quoted it to say, "To inspire is to breathe life into another's dreams." A lot of the younger generation, the young people in the young generation, have dreams. Their dreams sometimes are very far-fetched, and it's also as a result of the overwhelming information that is at our disposal, that is right in front of us. When I spoke to like my mother and some of my older uncles, when they were in their teenage age or in their 30s, the access to the information that they got is not the access to information that we have gotten in this day and age. I mean, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she already knows things at 15 that I couldn't even imagine in my lifetime when I was 15. Right? So it's important that we kind of understand that the landscape in which they are growing up in is different, and just being able to understand that and have some empathy and patience and adapt to how they communicate is very important to being able to reach out to them. Sorry. So how are futures shaped? How are the futures of these young ones shaped? Through stories. If there's one thing that the Bible has taught us, and that's really, that's something that I have found very amazing, about this book called the Bible, the Word of God, because, we hear things like God never changes, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And it's so true, because with God, the circle continues. There's constant, like whatever was shared in the days of Abraham was passed on all the way down to Isaac, to Jacob, and on and on and on. And we find ourselves doing that as well. And most of the time, it was all passed on through stories. It is through stories that we passed on. We passed on our cultures, our history. We passed on tradition. We passed lessons. It is through the same stories that we also pass on the Word of God to our young ones. We talk to them about God. We inspire them. It is through stories that most of these lessons have been learned. And I just said, much like historical figures who left their mark, mentors share their journeys, passing on the lessons etched in their hearts. In Deuteronomy 4:9, it says, "Only take care and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen, unless they depart from your hearts all the days of your life. Make them known to your children and to your children's children." Now, mentors, it is important that they create an environment resembling a relay track. And I was trying to elaborate on that. When I say a relay track, it starts from the starting point, but you can't really clearly see what is at the end. But there is a pathway, and there is a goal, and there is encouragement that you can get to the end. Mentors should definitely seek to encourage the younger generation, to encourage curiosity and continuous learning in the younger generation. And I picked this point also because I've been privileged all my life to always have elder people around me. I don't even know how that happened. Right from my grandmother before she passed, I used to spend a lot of time at her feet, just listening to her stories. To my uncle, the late Evoluku, to other senior colleagues of mine in the media that I worked in for so long, who just decided to give me a chance, even though I always ask myself, why was I picked out? And when I made mistakes, first of all, they encouraged me to just be a go-getter. But even when I made mistakes, they didn't shut me down. They didn't speak down on me or speak down at me. They didn't disregard me. They always wanted to hear what I had to say. And even if my ideas or my thoughts sounded, out of this world, they just gave me a listening ear. And so it encouraged me to be able to speak up and speak my mind. So be curious to look out for who to mentor. They are waiting to be heard. Active listening is a key quality, right? Is the equivalent of holding the baton, giving mentees a platform to voice their thoughts and concerns. Viewing mistakes as opportunities for growth is like picking up the falling baton and continuing the race with resilience. James 1, 2-4, echoes that very nicely. Now, when guiding the journey of the goals, mentors are like experienced runners, helping mentees set achievable goals and expectations for their race of life. The truth is, I know, and this has been talked about a lot, but a lot of the times, when some mentors, they want to mentor, but they want to mentor and they're trying to almost like force their way or relive their own life in someone. And I think to a large extent, that might be slightly fatal, because you need to allow the mentee to be able to express themselves, and you just need to guide them in what they're trying to do, and help them as they are having these wild, crazy ideas of what they want to do. With the wisdom that you have as a mentor, guide them, use the word of God, use experience, use your stories, guide them, and show them how to set small goals where they can see short-term wins. Those short-term wins do the following. They create an atmosphere of immense trust. That trust is a precious gift that they have, that they're relying on you now. It's a trust that should never be abused. It's a trust that should be nurtured like an egg, because that's when you can really, through the help of God and the Holy Spirit, you can then help navigate their lives to achieve the full purpose that God has for them. Goal setting is an act of passing the baton of purpose, helping mentees track their progress and celebrate every step forward. Philippians 3:13-14 hints on that. Adjusting the grip on the baton, adapting to goals in response to changing circumstances ensures a steady and purposeful journey as well. And I pulled up Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. Actually, that verse reads, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witness, let us also, lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and the perfecter of our faith." And this passage compares the Christian journey to a race. It emphasizes the need for endurance and the idea of mentors guiding and supporting us in our race in this life. Now, nurturing innovation through mentorship. Mentorship fuels innovation, much like passing the baton of ideas between generations. and I picked this image because I think it says it all, right? First, you have, you have someone who dreamed about creating a car, and someone else said, hey, I'm dreaming about, creating a fridge, and so on and so forth, until the point you have someone in the future who decides, you know what, I can create a helium balloon. And if I can create a helium balloon, what else can I create? But all these inventors or innovators, however you want to call them, there was an active collaboration between the older generation and the younger generation, where the older generation have learned, are passing on the knowledge that they have learned, collaborating with the younger generation, and the younger generation are pushing the boundaries forward, are building on that success. And throughout history, we've seen a lot of, amazing wonders created. We've seen a lot of things created in the world of technology and the world of, in so many sectors. There's been a remarkable, I would call it growth, right? Or innovation. And that has been due to active collaboration. And so as a mentor, it is important that even when you are mentoring a mentee of yours, don't always look at them as you're passing on knowledge, but have an open mind as well to know that they can pass knowledge to you as well, and give them the impression or give them the sense of belief that their word matters, that you want to hear their thoughts on things. It goes a long way in building that strong bond and relationship. Different generations passing batons of diverse viewpoints spark the flames of creativity, lightening the path to progress. 1 Corinthians 3:6 and 7 talks about that. It says, I planted, Apollo watered, but God gave the growth. So neither he who plants nor he who waters anything, but only God who gives the growth. And this passage emphasizes the collaborative aspect of work, where different individuals contribute their efforts towards a common goal, which, much like the relay hands-off, are mentioned in. So it's almost like the relay handoff. Bridging the gap with understanding. Addressing generational differences in mentorship is like smoothly handing over the baton in a relay exchange. Open communication and mutual respect are the tracks on which the baton of understanding travels. Learning goes both ways. I mentioned that in the last slide, and this is just a follow-up of that. It goes both ways as mentors and mentees share the baton of insights, building bridges across generations. And in one of my research work that I was doing a long time ago, this particular graph popped up. So I had to go back to it, and the screen grabbed it because it just kind of spells out how the various generations have evolved, and how each and every one of them are different in character, right? And I'm not going to go too much into it, but if you look at this image here, it will kind of explain the silent generation, the baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Generation Z. How do they all differ? And because we are made in God's image, we are diverse, different people. We need to have, a mindset of inclusion, a mindset of embracing diversity. Because when we hear people with different opinions and we have an open mind to listen to them, there's a lot of learning that can happen there on both ends, on both sides. And when that is achieved, then we come into this endless cycle of inspiration, right? Where there's motivation, action, inspiration, motivation, and then action, and it keeps, and that loop continues on and on. You're passing the baton of mentorship, sets in motion a ripple effect that extends beyond the immediate relationship. 2 Matthew 2:2 talks about that, right? Mentees who become mentors continue the legacy, creating an unending relay race of inspiration. In passing the baton, the positive ripples touch communities, echoing the impact of mentorship through time. And essentially, in summary, what this part is really saying is, if you mentor a mentee and mentor him in the way of the Lord and mentor him to his full potential by God's grace, that person would not only achieve his purpose, in life, but that person will go on to mentor someone else. And if we look at how we spread the gospel and how we're supposed to become evangelists for Christ, well, that's the same cycle. I've learned when I was a kid, I remember we used to have Bible studies in the house every day. Well, guess what? I'm now having Bible studies every day with my kids, which is, and even this morning when I was praying with my kids, because my cousin just flew in from the US with her kids, and her kids, there are three, I've got three kids, and they're all in the same age with my kids. And so we're all sitting as one big, large family in the living room praying today. And I was just telling them, like, it's amazing how we're having this Bible study, because some 30-something years ago, I was having Bible study like this with my cousin in her house or my house, whoever came to visit, with our parents. And the cycle is repeating itself. And it's our hope that we can inspire the younger generation to be greater than even us. Obviously with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. That is, I believe, every parent's wish and goals, and being able to achieve that is making sure that you have an open mind, listen to the young generation, and try and show empathy in their current dealings in life. And finally, transformative narratives of mentorship. These case studies showcase the power of passing the baton of mentorship leading to remarkable transformation. It's just summary. I just try to use picture graph to kind of explain how, effective mentoring, coaching, and supporting, helping to shape goals, training, motivation, advice, how all of that kind of leads into what you would call, mentoring someone to their full potential. It says these stories highlights how inspired mentees take the baton of knowledge and run towards positive change. Each narrative is a testament to the profound influence of mentorship on personal growth and community betterment. And last but not least, we went back to the Usain Bolt picture. Usain Bolt has been celebrated as one of the fastest runners, his broken record. I don't think anyone has broken his record yet. But if Usain Bolt is humble enough, he will tell you that record that he broke in the 400, in the 100 meter, in the 400 relay, he broke that record only because his teammates played their part. And so there is an act of collaboration that must exist. When God created us, he created us to be communal, to interact with each other, to learn from each other, obviously to depend on him for guidance, but we cannot do this on our own. It has to be a collaborative effort. The younger generation right now are savvy with technology, and they have so much access to the internet, and they are very aspirational. And sometimes all they are looking for is for a mentor or someone to see the potential, to just see that little potential, and to draw them close and slowly guide them into achieving their potential, and just in closing, I will say this, because I've been blessed to have a lot of people who I can call mentors in my life, and I say this with so much pride, because I have mentors from all walks of life in different countries. I have, I consider Elder Shei one of my mentors, and I come to him, when I have specific things I want to talk about, and he's always there for me. I have another mentor who's an Indian man, Dr. Bart, and his mentoring on a different level. My conversation with him is very interesting as well. And like I said, my late uncle and a couple other people that I can always rely on, I think they have helped shape me into the man that I am today. And I am filled with gratitude, and I have tried, and I still try to do the same for the younger generation coming behind me. But I will still say this, I'm still looking for mentors, because my race is not even run yet. I'm still running my race. And even in this Christian journey of mine, I still need mentors to guide me. And so in closing, active listening is the foundation akin to receiving the baton with a firm grip during a relay race. Creating a safe space for growth is like providing a supportive track for mentees to confidently carry the baton of their aspirations. And if that happens, we will be able to inspire the next generation. In conclusion, passing the baton is more than a metaphor. It's a transformative guide to inspiring the next generation. The act of passing the baton carries the weight of wisdom, the spark of innovation, and the light of inspiration. Roger Federer was stepping down as one of the greatest tennis players, and he decided that he's going to inspire the next generation in tennis. As you leave here today, consider the baton you are carrying and the impact you can have on the race ahead. Thank you very much. And now the track.
Thank you so much.
The track is open for discussion. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Douglas. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. And we listen to your comments now. I'm sure you're prepared to give answers and give more clarification as necessary. Thank you, Douglas. Thank you. Okay, Bolaji, I saw you send a comment. You want to say it, or you just sent it in?
Yes, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. That was really awesome, Douglas. Thank you so much for that. That was really, really good. I enjoyed that tremendously, and it resonated so well with me. And what I picked was the fact that there was a need for the older generations to understand the younger generations, and to, with empathy, to understand where they're at, and not judge them by the way we were brought up. You know, we cannot relate with you the way we were related to. You know, so we have to really see you as contemporaries, as colleagues, from that standpoint, and see your strengths, and look at your strengths and help you with the experience that we've had that would, you know, take you on your journey there. Because I think the conflict happens where, and that's the sad thing that happens. The conflict happens when we use all the traditional stuff that the way we're brought up, oh, you cannot talk, or you cannot do this. We actually cloud what you guys have, and we are not able to see that. And that the friction starts from there. You know, so I just think it's awesome what you just shared. One scripture that just came to mind when you were talking was Abraham, how the Lord had said to Abraham that he entrusted him because he knew he was going to teach his children. And I was brought up, my mother coming to my room at 5 o'clock every morning, 6 of us, studying the Bible. I just shared what you said, just resonated, because I do the same with my kids now. And I'm praying that my kids will do the same. So that's how it passes down the legacy. So we should look at the godly values and pass it down to generations, and throw away some of the cultural stuff that is there, that is harming us in our nation. And I know we have a lot of cultural things that is harming us, that is not allowing the older and the younger to come together to build together. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you so much for that.
Bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajay. I don't know. I agree with you. I wrote it down here. It's pray with it, and also active listening. We spoke of communicating through stories, encouraging curiosity, being a guide, small goals, nurturing innovation through mentorship, bridging the gap with understanding. I mean, those are powerful, powerful points that would help us in the process of communicating with the next generation. Thank you, Bolaji. I don't know if Douglas wants to say something on that, or we should go to the next person.
No, please. I think Bolaji. I mean, I'm so happy that Bolaji actually fully understood what I was trying to communicate, and for me, that is. Thank you, Bolaji, for sharing that.
Okay. Yes. Any other person, please? I think Lara, we also have comments.
No, actually, I've sent something to the chat. What it's a very amazing presentation, and what what I can say is that I need to go over it again and again to really be able to pick out all the little morsels and everything. So all I'd like to say to Douglas is, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Malara. Thank you. And I'm certain that others have comments or questions. Can I, while we're waiting, Douglas, again, thank you for the deep analysis and all the points raised. I'm just wondering, you have a lot of young people in most organizations, and but sometimes you have 2 or 3 generations. And you've mentioned a number of points that are very, very relevant, even in the marketplace. The empathy, like you emphasize, is very critical for motivating and inspiring the younger ones to be more productive, because a number of them actually, they are different from our generation. They in terms of allegiance or long-term connection with an organization, you can't really be assured of that. Most of them will move on. So what would you say in terms of their desire? I mean, their aspirational tendencies. Yes, we do all of the things you've said. Which one would you emphasize, maybe in the marketplace, for retention of these young talents? Thank you.
That's a very good question, and I'm glad you brought it up, because if I was going to go down in this presentation, it might take me a while to explain. So I'm going to use just 2 minutes trying to explain this. Elder, what you have to understand, this generation, they are what I would call, they believe in the concept, of equity. And equity means ownership. But, I think one of the biggest mistakes that organizations have made is that when they hire, the younger generation, they think that, when I'm paying you, that I'm paying you a good salary or whatever, and that's okay, and that's done. But if you understand, the skill set that this person is bringing in, and if that skill set is very valued to that business, well, how about you start to consider, having like bringing them further into the business, like giving them more leadership roles. If they see that there is a path to growth in that organization, as long as it's also in line with their overall goals, they're more likely to stay there. And on the one hand, you might also find 1 or 2 of them who want to then create like little private small businesses for themselves. But what stops an organization from encouraging that and still collaborating? So like having like a certain outsourced service that person is not providing with their business, be what they're outsourcing to that business. And I'll give you a typical example. I have gone into the technology space. I've been in the media for almost 20 years. I finished early and got into radio and spent some time in the media. And while I was in the media, one of the things that I've always done is playlisting. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of what playlisting is, but playlisting is being able to receive music from a ton of artists, left, right, and center, and be able to listen to all these records and pick out the best set of songs that we're going to roll out for the next week as fresh music on the station. And I curate for 13 radio stations as I speak, right? So that's a lot of work. But imagine the way they do this now is that they send emails. Artists in the past will come and bring CDs to the station. And then now the CDs are obsolete, they send emails. It's still a very cumbersome way of receiving all that data and, dissecting it. And so, I had proposed and said, hey, there is a way that we can do this, that we can create a technology product to do this, to be more seamless. And I'll be very honest, the idea was shut down. Now I'm collaborating with some other friends of mine, and we're building it externally. But in hindsight, and this is what I say, whoever to my superior officer, my boss, if he was thinking ahead, I would have, if I were him, I would have said, you know what? Okay, the world is going into technology. Let's explore the idea of creating a department that is more tech-based and address this and see whether this solution you're trying to create from a business point of view cannot also just solve our business problems, but can also be something that we can outsource to other radio stations and businesses. And that line of thinking is what I think sometimes is lacking. Again, you can't force anyone to take any decision, but it's that open-mindedness that I think is very important. Because if that had happened, Elder, why would I want to start a business outside somewhere else? I would just, that department would have been created and I'll be there, and you know, I'll obviously earn more, be given more responsibility, but I'll be excited to create something new. You understand? And that's how you keep me.
Right. Fantastic, fantastic. I think, Douglas, what you just said now is a strong, very, very powerful principle for leading organizations. And I believe, as we move forward into the future, you can't afford to kill ideas. You can't afford to live in the past. You cannot even say that things are not possible. Or what you say is that let's explore this option. And for the younger generation, they will come up with what are crazy sometimes. But the best of us should please I understand the fact that we have to give people a chance. And like you said, technology is moving on so fast. What do you think was impossible yesterday? What do you think was just crazy yesterday is becoming normal? Okay, thank you for that. And that other word about involvement. I think it's also very critical. How do you involve the youths and all? Okay, any other comment, please?
I was just going to add that that's what happened with Walmart and Amazon, because
Okay.
there's the guy that was in Walmart who had this idea of what Amazon was doing, and they
Right.
shut it down, and he took the idea to Amazon to start selling, using tech way back.
Yeah.
We started with books, but he took this idea to Amazon, and now Walmart is trying to catch up with Amazon now in terms of selling all the products from all over the world. So what he said is so critical. And I was I was facilitating accelerator program at Faith Foundation a week ago, and one of the people just mentioned who was in tech was so upset and said, we're training them and they're leaving us. And these are young people who are talking. And one of the things I said to them, you need to involve the younger generation in your business and make them have ownership. Because he was so upset that we're training, particularly in the tech industry, they're losing a lot of talent. What Douglas said is so critical, because unless they have ownership, because they're different from us. We were employees. That's the way we were trained, to be an employee and to serve your master, and then you can move on. But they want to be part of what's going on because of the fact that they can innovate and use innovation to become more efficient. So they have so many ideas that they're bringing to the table. And because some of the older generations are so old school and we don't understand the tech space, so it becomes like, I don't want it because I don't understand it. So I think basically what he's saying is that we must embrace what technology is given to us, because it's going to make us better, and they're going to be able to make more money for us rather than compete against us. Because if they go out, they're going to do a better job than what we're doing, because they understand the system and they're going to go set up and then compete. And that's how companies die. Older companies die because they don't move with the times. And we have to use the new generation with the new thinking to make sure that we can at least go on. And so you have a sustainable product that you have that the information can take and scale for you, basically using tech.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Elder, can I add something? Because I just got a message from Ebon Emelogu. I hope I got the name right. Apologies if I.
No problem. No problem.
So, and the question, let me read the question out and then I'll answer the question. He says, what happens if the younger generation do not have sufficient coping mechanism and willingness to grow or take up leadership positions? Well, again, you don't have to force anyone to take up leadership positions. I'm going to use myself as an example. Yeah. I'm not phased to be a leader, right? Like I was explaining that I've gone into technology, right? I'm a Scrum Master by practice now and obviously certification and all. That's what I am currently do. And I'm also trained to be a product manager. But being a product manager doesn't necessarily put me in leadership position. So let's use the analogy that I gave earlier about the idea I had tried to sell. I don't want to be a leadership position, but my boss could have easily said, okay, you know what? This idea is worth exploring. And he can call his business development guys and sit down together with me, and we can discuss the idea at full. There is a concept called design sprints in technology. Anyone who's in tech understands that. A design sprint is like a workshop, a 1-week workshop, right? That is done in the most lean and efficient way to be able to answer pertinent questions. Is this idea a valuable idea? What will it, who are the target audience? And, what is the financial implication? Little bit of metrics that we can measure with this workshop. And once we have that, the business can make a decision. So, we want to invest in that. But if we're going to invest in this and we're going to create a department for it, hey, who are the other, if I can handle that department, who are the current managers that can, move on and take on that role and kind of supervise me now, so that my position will be as to pushing the vision of this product forward, but there will still be a senior supervisor who speaks on behalf of the business, the stakeholders. And that is very possible. I would still be in my space. I'll be super excited that I'm creating something that I can even come back tomorrow and say, I was part of that, So it's really about how we look at problems, and everything doesn't have to be cutthroat, if that's the word I'm going to use. Like there's a term, and I'm going to end here by saying, in Scrum, one of the key characteristics of being agile is being able to adapt to any situation, understand what the problem is, and adapt to it. And if you do, you will find a solution and find a way to take your business to bigger heights. Thank you.
Wow. Douglas, thank you so much. Thank you. We can continue for the next, I don't know, but we would have to respect time and just maybe, thank you so much, Douglas. Thank you. I don't want to repeat what you said, but it's sincerely is the truth. Let's give the younger ones a chance. Let's remember that they're digital natives. We have to acquire those skills, and we just have to find a way from what you've said this evening. But what is good is that we are going to post the slides, and I believe my colleague Tosin, thank you very much for all the work you're doing. She will post. I mean, those who are interested in listening to this presentation again, because she recorded it, she can send it out to you. Unless there's a very, very important comment, that we do have to take now, we may have to bring this to a close. Is there someone that maybe in a minute just want to say something? Because we are bringing it to a close now. Is there anyone? I don't know if, okay, Shola is here. Shola, can you maybe check? Is there anyone that wants to make a comment that I have not called? Okay, let's assume. Now, just a few words before we round up. Once again, Douglas, thank you very much. I know you're